Good afternoon and welcome to AM News Network presents Summary Judgment. I'm attorney Rachel Baird and I'm joined by my legal investigator Ed Peruta, who also is president of American News and Information Services. Today is May 18th, 2019, and you've already had a pretty exciting day, Ed.
Well, no, not as exciting as it was yesterday.
AM News Network presents Summary Judgment. I'm attorney Rachel Baird and I'm joined.
I just want to make sure that it's going out. But Gary Nance is out there in California. He'll let us know if we're going out on News Now San Diego.
Hi, Gary, and thanks for all the emails, keeping us up to date on everything. Really appreciate it.
And he could check News Now Houston, News Now San Diego, and Summary Judgment Talk Show on YouTube to see if we're going out on all three.
Quality control.
Quality control, absolutely.
So tell everybody your exciting news. I want to get to that.
Nick, can you come here a minute? Where's Nicholas? Well, we'll get to it.
Oh,
Hand me
There he
the device, Nick.
there he is. We won't say what
Hand
it
me
was.
the device, Nick. He needs 1 minute. Hand me the device. Now, and I even have a clip of my first flight, but I will tell you that American News has acquired a DJI Phantom 3 professional drone. And it's quite entertaining, to say the least. It flies.
Mm-hmm.
It travels. It takes video.
We just have to name it.
We have to name it? Well, what should we name it?
Well, you came up with ANIS 1, which stands for American News and Information Services.
You actually said it.
When I file papers on behalf of American News, I call it American News.
Snooper 1.
Well, I was thinking we could turn ANIS around and make it SINA, SINA 1.
Why don't we call it Snooper 1?
Okay, well, we'll take that under consideration. We have time to make a final decision.
Yeah, and somebody can always give us suggestions on what we should call it.
So
But,
we're gonna play the video later. 'Cause
Hold
it's
on
really
a minute.
good.
I think, if Master Control could set up this video, it's very short, very entertaining at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what happened. Brian Duguay was selling his drone. I found it on Craigslist. Didn't realize that we knew each other. He tried to back out of it. It was there. I said, is it available? He had a note up there. If it's up on Craigslist, it's available. So don't ask me if it's available.
So we got irritated with your stupid question.
So I asked him, and then next morning it was down. Then I found a way to call him. And I called him up, and when I told him what I did, he goes, is this Ed Peruta? I said, yeah. He says, all right. He says, you got it. So he brought it to my house. He showed me how it worked. And like a stupid fool, I went out onto the back deck to the table. And I said, I think I can take it off, move it out, fly it down between the condos, come back and land it on the table. Well, when this thing's got those propellers spinning and it's coming at you, you get nervous, right? And then the controls are kind of funky. And first time I've ever done anything like that. And the rest is history. I crashed on my first flight.
And the landing zone, the LZ,
The
you might want
LZ.
to call it, was a confined area. Probably the first
Oh!
time you attempted a landing,
Oh!
it should have been more out in an open field, I think.
So then my son Michael, who has had a drone, said to me, Dad, does your drone automatically come home? I said, yes. He said, bring it down in the air, and if you let go of the controls, will it just hover? I said, yes. He said, bring it down to about 6 feet off the ground, walk up and grab it, and then shut it down while you're holding on to it. Don't try to land it on something. So if Master Control, he'll blink the light, I guess, when it's ready to go. And it's on the laptop one up by the opening. I know.
Boy.
I know.
You've upset Master Control. And
Well,
we've
no,
only
I haven't
been-
upset
and
Master Control. Let me
We've
tell you
only been
something.
in the show.
Master Control is a photographer par none. And Master Control is very excited at the fact that I have acquired not one, but 3 drones. So I got an advertisement for what's called a Drone X. And they were like $99. They're little tiny fold-up drones. So I bought the first one for $99, and then they offer you the second one for $55. Here's the video. So I don't know if our mics are on or off, but
Yeah.
right, so it doesn't record audio, but I flew it out to where it was off the deck, And then I turned it to the left, and I said, well, I'm just going to fly straight down, and then I'm going to turn it around, then I'm going to come back, then I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to land it right on the table in front of me. That was a mistake.
Well, I was thinking that as I was watching the video. It's a condo complex. Oh, there it is. Look at that. It's a condo complex, and there are some privacy issues there, right? But
Absolutely. I could sneak right up and look in somebody's living room.
they-
But I'm not going to do that. But
No.
that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is I have already begun to think about what I could do with this drone to enhance videos that I do. I can take pictures of courthouses, Now,
now here we come in for the
really,
landing.
I mean, I'm going to try and land it on that table right next to my left hand.
Yes.
And that's Brian Duguay that sold it to me. And that's Lois inside the condo. She said, I'm getting out of here. And then we got Bassie out of there. And I said, okay, come a little closer, come a little closer, come a little closer. Oh, no, got to go this way.
Is
Yep.
this your first time landing a zone?
The first time.
A drone.
First time. I mean, if flying a real plane's easier than flying this thing. So I said, okay, let me just put it, maybe I just need to go to the left a little bit. And then it goes to the left, and I get nervous. Whoa! I said, this thing's coming at. Well, them goddamn propellers are spinning around.
Brian doesn't look
And
nervous
now
at
here
all.
it comes. Keep watching. Oh, here it goes. Yeah, boy. Okay. Oh, shit. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it got bad. Oh,
But it survived. I survived. Brian survived. Bassie survived. Lois survived. So I survived my first solo.
great job getting that video up so quick, Master Control. Thank you.
Well, I mean, think about it. There's a lot of things that, for example, I'm going to apply for an FAA. You can go a recreational registration. Costs like $3, $5. And it's for recreational use. And if you pay, I think it's either $15 or $25, you can apply for a commercial use. And I have a pilot's license. But I guess you have to take a unmanned aerial, whatever, a drone test with the FAA to get a drone certificate.
So what can you do with a drone without a certificate or a permit or a license?
You're not supposed to use it for commercial purposes.
Uh-huh.
If say I'm shooting television news and I'm selling the video.
Right.
That you need a commercial drone license. But if I'm just doing it for birthday parties and stuff like that, or non-commercial, you can have a recreational license.
Well, so what you did this morning with the drone at the condo, was that illegal because you don't have that $3 license?
Probably yes.
Oh,
Probably yes.
okay.
But all I did was take it for a test drive.
Well, that's what everybody says when they commit a crime. All I did was, but it just doesn't work yet.
Well, I mean, yeah, well,
Okay. Well,
I'm going to fly it this afternoon, too.
Okay.
I'm going to fly it in a big fucking field.
well, I would advise against that until
You're my lawyer. You have to say that.
do you have to take a course to just get the recreational license, or?
No, they
Okay.
have a study thing.
Okay, we'll look that up and we'll get
So I
that
got to
all
ask you a
straightened
question. So Nick, are you looking forward to flying a drone?
Yes.
out. Oh, so does each person need a license, or is the license
I think
connected
that
with
the
the drone?
drone has to be registered. They
Yes,
actually give you a
FAA
number.
needs to register the drone, but I don't think.
The operator, I don't think, has to have.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they do, but you know something? I'll cross that bridge when I come to it.
Well, we'll look
I mean,
it up
listen,
and get it straightened
listen.
out.
Look at it
I'll
this
look it
way.
up now.
Look at it this way. And we were talking about this last week. If people can ride unregistered, uninsured cars without driver's licenses and expect to walk away, I'm just going to expect to walk away without a drone license. But I'll tell you this. There's times in my 40 years of gathering news that people have said to me, I can't go down there. Well, asshole, I'm going to open the trunk of my car and I'm going to launch the drone. I'll stay outside of the area, the airspace over the incident, but I'll, at an angle, shoot the incident.
Right.
Because I guess they own the crime scene all the way up. I don't want my drone crashing in the middle of a crime scene or whatever. But yeah, I based on what I have done in my lifetime if I had a drone, would have been a whole different game. You know, because this thing will fly a half a mile away from you, and then you hit the home button on the controller, and it comes right back to you. Can't go higher than 400 feet. I know that. You can't fly in controlled airspace like Brainerd Field is to the north of us. You can't fly commercial and not commercial. Civilian aircraft cannot fly below 500 feet. So if you see a plane going over your head, usually they're at 1,000 feet. But they can come all the way down to 501 feet and fly across your house. But they can't come below 500. So the airspace between ground level up to 500 feet is, you could fly a kite, you could fly balloons, you can do whatever you want to do. But once you go above 500 feet, you're up in where airplanes travel. And I see no reason.
And you're not allowed to go up there?
You're not allowed to, with a drone, you are not allowed to go over 400 feet.
How about if you have one of those jet packs on your back that, lifts you up?
Well, I don't have one of those.
Yeah.
I have a 24/7 pump that's pumping shit into my heart, but I don't have a jetpack yet.
They didn't have drones back in the 90s, right?
No.
Or maybe they had them, but they weren't commercially available?
They had radio-controlled planes, but they did not have these helicopter-type drones.
Or at least not available to the general public.
Right. In other words, I have seen people, because down where I had my motocross track, there was a radio-controlled aircraft group that would fly off of the sod lots, the grass.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people that had 1/16 size helicopters. And the helicopter, if you looked at it, it looked real, but it was tiny. And they were taking them off and flying them all over the place.
Maybe our viewers in California, especially Southern California, will have an answer to this, or be familiar with a situation where it's been brought up. But the paparazzi are known for being very aggressive with especially celebrities. I don't know why, but I got hooked into watching a show about the summer of 1997 when Princess Diana was out on that yacht with
Dodi Syed.
It was like the month before she was killed, and she had gone out to some island owned by Dodi's father or whatever, and the paparazzi got wind of it, and they were just everywhere. And I'm thinking, if there had been drones at that point available to these paparazzi, they would have put them right above her and followed every movement. So I'm wondering, for example, in California, Hollywood, do the paparazzi have drones, and why can't they just place it above a celebrity and just follow the celebrity everywhere around?
Well, no,
I've never heard of that.
Let me explain something to you.
Right.
I purchased 2 what are called Drone X. That's the name. If you look it up, it's Drone X. And they're tiny. They'll fit in your purse with a controller. Mm-hmm. And they're $99. They only fly for like 15 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. But because of their size and their weight, you don't have to register those. Follow me so far? Now, because this drone weighs over a certain amount and it's so big, it has to be registered. It's at the low end of being registered.
So is it already registered by the previous owner?
It was registered by, I took his identification number off it, and I have to get an identification number.
Boy, that thing is just not legal, is it?
It's not.
Okay, we gotta fix that.
And I have every intention to log on to the FAA website and do whatever I have to do. I'll get the recreation first,
right,
for 3 or 5, and then I'll get the commercial at the same time or at the immediate. But what I'm saying is,
you know what's next? If they have to be registered, the next thing is going to be they have to be insured. I bet they're going to pass some law. Something's going to happen.
They're going to be taxed.
Well, they're going to say you have to have insurance.
They're going to try and make money on it
in case they
somehow.
crash into
But
something.
what I'm trying to say is, I was intrigued. There's a DJI is a Chinese company that makes these, and according to my son Michael, they are on the cutting edge of all of the new drone technology. And there is a drone called a Mavic, M-A-V-I-C 2 Professional, Mavic 2 Pro. And it's about $1,400. And I came this close to buying a Mavic 2 Pro. And the reason is you can take it out of the glove compartment of your car and launch it. And like I said, if I was doing a baseball game, I'm not going to have a drone up for 4 hours during a game, or Little League game, or whatever. I'm not going to have a drone up for 4 hours. In spot news, you deal with 20-second clips. You walk up onto a scene and say it's at the ABC apartment complex and it's a fire. Well, what you do is you go to the street intersection and it's at the corner of Main and Elm Street. So you shoot, hold your camera steady and you shoot Main and Elm, the sign. 20 seconds. Stop. Now you go over to the sign that says ABC Apartments, 123 Elm Street. And you shoot the sign that says the name of the apartment complex. Then you go up to the door of a fire truck, and they usually have a big, nice decal on the door, and they have Weathersfield or Rocky Hill or Hartford or Los Angeles.
Speaking of that, I'm going to send Master Control a picture to put up that I
Los
saw in Florida.
Los Angeles Fire Department. Mm-hmm. So you go up and you shoot the door of the vehicle. And if there's multiple communities there, you shoot the different doors of the different towns that are there. And at the same time, if you've got flames and you've got activity, you shoot the video of the flames. But you shoot 20-second clips. You may stay there for a half an hour, but you've only come out with like 5 or 6 20-second clips. And that's what you deliver to a news desk is, here's the clips. It was at Main and Elm. It was at the ABC Apartments. Weathersfield Fire was there. Cromwell, Hartford, whatever was there. And there's the flames. There's the building. There's the people being taken out of the building. There's the people being loaded into ambulances. There's the people getting cut out of cars.
Remember that deposition we did, the Hartford case about the Park Street homicide, where you were excluded and pushed back, and the tape kept getting pushed back to prevent you from recording.
It's like JC talked about last week in Southern California. They're putting up, fire departments putting up tape now. Go ahead.
and we started calling it the Peruta perimeter because they would change the perimeter of the crime scene when you showed up.
You're right. What happens is public safety, whether it's police, fire, or whatever, public safety arrives on the scene. And they'll say, put up some tape. And they put up some tape. And they put up the tape thinking, I only have to keep people back 100 feet. Mm-hmm. And then a camera shows up. And they go, let's move the tape down 5 blocks. That's what happened in New Britain when the New Britain sergeant took my tripod and walked away. Channel 30, WVIT, NBC in West Hartford, they were way down at the corner of an intersection because the police said you can't go any further. I just walked right past them, walked up, says, I'm not in a crime scene. I'm on the sidewalk.
And last week we talked about the reporter in Bridgeport who was arrested, detained at the scene of a protest when she was on a public sidewalk and was just covering the event.
And they knew who she was.
And not that this matters, but they knew who she was. Even if they didn't know who she was, it wouldn't have made it okay. And we were wondering what was going to happen with that, whether there was going to be any action by Hearst Media, and you had guessed that there wouldn't be.
No. And I'm sure that the powers to be in the city of Bridgeport had communication with the Hearst Media about that reporter who was, quote unquote, detained. Okay? But that's happened to me a dozen times.
You know, let's, I don't know why, detained, that's how I got on this subject. Chelsea Manning, you're familiar with the name, right?
I am.
He was.
She.
Well, when he was in the military, he was a he.
Yeah.
And he's connected with Julian Assange, right?
Right.
And he went to jail for espionage. He was sentenced for 35 years, and while in jail, he transgendered into a female.
That's what. Yep.
Okay. Obama pardoned her after, I think, 7 years. I'm not sure how much time she actually did, but
Yeah.
she was out.
Yep.
Well, now that Julian Assange has been taken from the embassy and is in the custody of England, right? Britain?
Right.
They may extradite him to the United States. They
Right.
may.
They may.
And the United States is getting pumped up for that possibility. And they're starting to do grand jury proceedings. And they called Chelsea Manning to testify. Do you know that she went back to jail? I can't believe I
For
didn't know
refusing to testify to the
this. For
grand
like
jury.
7 or 8 months. And then when the grand jury was no longer convening,
Then you can let him out. Let her out.
Let her out. But now she's back in jail.
Because there's probably another grand jury.
Yeah, and she may be in jail for 18 months. And she gave an interview Thursday or Friday saying that no matter what they do to her, she's not going to testify. And I'm thinking, that's awesome. I mean, I watched her interview, and I think I'd rather read what she has to say or read about her than listen to her. I'll put it that way. I think I would just get more of a background and be clearer about what's going on if I could read about it. But somebody should write a book about her. They probably have. I don't know if it's any good or not. But that's just, remember back in the Clinton days, when they were investigating Clinton, somebody went to jail then too instead of testifying.
A female New York Times reporter, I think,
Yeah,
was incarcerated because she refused to testify to a grand jury.
I mean, these are people.
Disclose her sources.
Yeah, I mean, these are people that are really at the forefront of upholding our Constitution, making the Constitution mean something. People that are willing to suffer personally because of it.
I have to tell you, I have actually testified in a trial where the plaintiff's attorney, it was a lawsuit between a chief of police and a patrolman. It was Schnabel v. Tyler, and a counterclaim of Tyler v. Schnabel. And who's the attorney that passed away? Hartford lawyer.
Oh, Cardwell?
Cardwell. Don Cardwell?
Yeah.
Don Cardwell was the attorney for Phil Schnabel. And I was on the stand. And I had obtained a federal criminal history of a Hartford attorney by the name of Carmine Giuliano. And I had obtained the information from when he was a drug mule while in college. And everybody wanted to know how I got my hands on a federal criminal history of somebody. And they put me on the stand, and they said to me, he asked me, he says, "Where'd you get it?" I said, "I'm not telling you." I said, "I'll tell you who didn't, but I'm not going to tell you who did. And you're not going to be able to ask me every name in the world, narrowing it down. I can assure you," and my testimony was, I can assure you that it was not given to me by Officer Clyde Tyler or anybody associated with him. But it was given to me because people knew I was involved again. And he was asking the judge to cite me for contempt for failing to answer the question. And I can't remember who the judge was, but the judge looked at me and said, "Mr. Peruta, is there a reason why you're not answering the question?" I said, "Absolutely, Your Honor." I said, "I'm a member of the media, and I guaranteed my source anonymity." I said, "And regardless of what you say or what they say, okay, I can be held responsible for breaking that trust. An individual who's given a guarantee of anonymity to the media, if the media discloses it, they have a civil action against the person who divulges the name."
Yeah,
I
but
said, "No, I'm not going to say it."
Yeah, but that's not really the reason you do it.
Judge ruled in my favor and said to Attorney Cardwell, "Well, he's told you that it didn't come from the defense or anybody related to the defense, and he's not going to tell you where he got it, and to be very honest, he doesn't have to."
I mean, it's as sacred as the attorney-client privilege.
Oh, absolutely.
Or maybe more so.
I would say more so.
Yeah. Not only, but unfortunately the judge in the case with Chelsea Manning, appears to be personally offended by her refusal to testify. He sent her to prison, and then on top of that, he said he was going to impose a fine of $500 for every day she's in prison. And he seemed adamant and strong-willed about it. And then I'm told it goes up to 1,000 after 30 days. 1,000 a day. Which, of course, she's never going to be able to pay, I guess. I don't know. So,
Okay, now let me tell you, because now you've opened something up. Oh yeah,
what?
this is the picture from Florida.
Oh, God, we're just kind of stream of consciousness today. We're just kind of going from one thing to another. I was in Florida for one day. I went down one day and came back the next. But you can kind of see it. And I've seen this guy's picture, this attorney. He's got billboards all over the place between Tampa and Sarasota, at least. That's the area that I go to. And then I was on a street in Bradenton, and I saw these motor vehicles that look like ambulances with his picture and advertisement for his law firm all over them. And not only is, a derogatory term for lawyers is ambulance chaser. Everybody's heard of it. And I said, he is the ambulance, in this case. So then we had a discussion this morning about, are they ambulances that are in use and he's advertising, or did he purchase these motor vehicles, probably, old ambulances, and dress them up? And I think it's the latter. I mean, number one, I don't see ambulance on there, and I don't see any lights or sirens. I'm assuming he bought them, and I mean,
You buy a fleet of used ambulances and
Yeah.
you have them graphic wrapped with your advertising, and if they're all the same model truck, you only have to figure out one pattern to cover them, and yeah.
advertising like that, no matter how out there it is, it brings in clients.
I want to
It's
just
very
say something.
successful.
I know how long you've been a lawyer. I know how long you've lived in Connecticut, and I know things from during the period before you came to Connecticut and before you were a lawyer. For example,
What?
do you remember that lawyers could not advertise?
Yes.
Were
There
you a
was
lawyer
day.
then?
No.
By the time you became a lawyer, they
Yeah.
could advertise.
Absolutely.
And there were a lot of restrictions on what a lawyer could say or not say, or advertise or not advertise. Couldn't do it. There's even a commercial with a Connecticut lawyer out there now that says, according to the rules, I cannot tell you that we're the best law firm. And I cannot tell you
That's funny.
that we can win $1 million for you. Okay? But what I can tell you is that, and so he's really backdooring this thing. But imagine, at one time, lawyers couldn't advertise.
I like that one advertisement, the personal injury attorney in Connecticut, who there's like a Brinks truck going down the road and bags of money are being thrown onto it or off of it, just kind of to give the idea that you could get, a lot of money.
Let me give you an example. No, and I want to talk about something, but I had an incident where I injured my right shoulder. And I put in a claim.
You had to bring this up. I
I
feel
put in a
very
claim.
bad
I put in a
about
claim.
this.
I fell over a gate at Rachel's house and literally broke my right shoulder, and my right shoulder had to be totally replaced. And the insurance company says, we'll give you $1,000.
I don't think you're supposed to talk about a settlement.
I don't give a shit.
No, yes, you do.
Well,
Don't
no,
talk.
nobody's told me I can't talk about it.
Oh, well, I'm telling you right now.
You're not my lawyer in this. So I retained an attorney, and as soon as I retained an attorney, the offer went up to 8, and they said this is going to be offered as a nuisance claim. Well, fuck, why didn't you offer me the nuisance claim before I got a lawyer? But I mean, that's not the issue. I believe that insurance companies are dogging people now. They don't want to pay anything. And they're sitting there making people go into court. even when the facts are plain and simple. But that's neither here nor there. I think the guy, and I'll tell you, in Connecticut, there are certain laws in communities, sign laws. And it says you can't put up a sign. There's certain things
So you
on the
put it on vehicles, they can't stop you.
There's certain laws in Connecticut and federally that you can't have certain signs near the highway. They have to be so far away from the highway, and there's all kinds of signs. There's all kinds of rules. So what people are doing in communities is they're taking panel trucks, big box trucks, putting their sign on the box truck and parking the truck out by the road in a parking lot. And that's how they're creating a mobile billboard. But it just, the ingenuity involved in advertising is unique. What they do is absolutely unique.
Well, you know, when you look at an attorney who puts himself out there like this attorney, I mean, he has his name, personal injury, Harvard Law School graduate, you know, and some other stuff on there. It sends a couple messages to potential clients, which can be very positive. I think a lot of lawyers look at that and go, oh, you know, how could he do that? That's beneath a lawyer. You know, judges are looking at it like, oh, that's tacky, that's whatever. But I think potential clients look at it like this. Here's a guy that doesn't care what other attorneys think and doesn't care what, you know, the hoity-toity people think and the judges think and all that. Here's a guy that's willing to do whatever's necessary to get the job done, and I think that's a positive attribute for a lot of people.
Let me tell you what goes through my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When you see a billboard on the side of the road that's probably going to cost $1,000 a month, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you see 10 billboards along the highway, each one at $1,000 a month. That's $10,000 a month.
Absolutely.
And then you see these trucks, and it's one thing if you own the truck. It's another thing if you go to some company that has these vehicles and you wrap them and you have to pay that company X amount of dollars a month to run around with your advertising on the truck. Or you have to pay somebody that's driving the trucks, 10 people to drive 10 trucks, 8 hours a day to do your advertising.
Now, I mean, I'm thinking that this guy...
So, well, let me finish.
Okay.
Usually, one of the other things that the lawyer in that advertising, that's all the things I can't tell you, what he said was, but what I can tell you is this. My firm will not charge you a dime unless we win the case. So what he's saying is, we'll work for you for free, and usually it's a contingency, it's called a contingency. If he gets $15,000, he keeps 5 and gives the client 10. So I'm sitting there saying, how many fucking cases must he win or settle to be able to afford all of these signs? Either that or he's going out of business.
It's a sign of success, in other words.
It's a sign of the multiple signage and advertising. You know, there's buses running around in Connecticut with legal advertising on the side. And there's billboards and legal advertising on the side of buses and all kinds of shit. And you sit there and say, in order for a law firm to be able to afford that volume of advertising, they have to be making enough money to cover that bill, together with all of the office bills, to get with everything else that comes with it. It's a sign of success.
And I think that is probably a pretty reasonable assumption when you see all that advertising with a personal injury lawyer, because their cases are by and large contingency. But if I were to see it with a lawyer who bills by the hour, and I saw all those signs and I saw this advertisement, I would say, well, I know where my fees are going, and I know why my fees are probably too high for this lawyer, because he or she is putting all this money into advertising, and let me just go to a lawyer that doesn't feel the need to advertise all over the place to get business where the fees might be lower. Because there are some lawyers that are kind of, you know, above it all, and they say, oh, I don't advertise, you know, I get business because I'm good and I don't need to advertise. You know, there's sort of that, attitude towards advertising. Well, good for you. You know, a lot of people go into business by themselves. They don't even have one client. And if you don't put yourself out there, nobody's going to even know you exist or even to know how good you are. So that's a luxury not to be able to advertise. Good for them.
Well, let me offer my expert opinion because I work for a lawyer and a law firm.
And you've worked for other lawyers too.
I have.
And let me make it clear, you don't work for me. We work together.
We work together.
Okay.
Okay. But what I'm
You are
saying
not
is
my- you are not
I am
my-
associated with your law firm.
You're not my employee.
I am not.
No,
I'm no one's employee.
exactly.
Now, you have, since I met you, since the first time we went into New Haven and I saw this box truck drive by. So why don't you tell the story of when you were a young lawyer, right out of law school or maybe in law school, there was an attorney who, instead of renting office space, maybe he has it someplace, he put his office in the back of a truck.
Well ahead of his time, right?
Well ahead of his time.
Because the first time I saw that truck was probably in 1991 or 92 when I was
And we
still in
saw
law
it
school.
last week.
Yeah, in New Haven, and his name's Irving Pinsky, and obviously he's been around that time. I mean, there's sort of a myth that's grown up around him, and this may be a myth. It may be true. It may be partially true. But what I was told was, he was a new lawyer, went into practice. Somebody walked in his door, and it was a $5 million case, and he was kind of set from there and could freaking do whatever he wanted.
He hit the lawyer lotto.
He did.
He hit the lawyer lotto.
That's what I've heard, and it may be a myth. I don't know.
Okay, but
But back then they didn't have the technology. Now, a lot of people, you can conduct an office from your car if you have a hotspot and a laptop, right? Back then it was different. So he was ahead of his time.
Let me explain. You know, if I was to counsel a young attorney now who doesn't go to work for a big law firm or he's looking to make his bones, so to speak, I would sit there and say to any lawyer, you can purchase a motorhome that you can have specifically built out on the inside to be a mobile office. Now, let's take, for example, the fact that I own a recreational vehicle, an RV, a big one. And I go like this. I have every comfort of home in that motorhome than I have in any one of the many houses that I may be able to go to in the country. I have transportation. I have flat screen televisions. I have satellite TV. I have hotspot internet. And at one time, I had satellite, HughesNet satellite, so that I could get onto the internet through satellite no matter where I am in the country. If I don't have cell service, I was connected by a satellite in the sky. And so I had telephone, I had TV, I had internet, I had a bathroom, I had a tub, I had a shower, I had a queen size. But what I'm saying is, today, like this guy that's got the truck, why would you want to have a fixed office when if you could literally park in the parking lot at a courthouse and hold court, so to speak?
You know, because, and maybe the next generation will be over this, but there's still a mindset that you're more reputable, dependable, reliable if you're in a brick and mortar setting.
I agree. But we live in changing times. And I think that, you know, a lot of time, all I'm saying is, you saw the guy in 91 who in 2019 still runs his business at least partially or somewhat out of a truck. At least that's what we believe.
And this brings to mind a show that used to be on television about a doctor, Trapper MD.
Yeah.
It was kind of based on the guy, Trapper John MD. It was kind of based on MASH, what the guy from MASH comes back and goes to a hospital, and then there's a young, I don't know what the premise was, but he lived in that trailer out in the parking lot, right? So that brought to mind, I mean, doctors. I mean, look, surgery used to always take place in a hospital, right? And now they have these outpatient surgery centers where some of the surgeries occur. So, is the next step to have mobile surgery centers that go to the people, especially in remote areas.
And now, surgery is being conducted over video conferencing, where a specialist in Chicago can be talking to a doctor in Botswana, Africa, and watching on a video camera and talking him through a complicated
That's
operation.
great. That is
You
so
know,
great.
in
But
other words-
think about this. A lot of the surgeries are robotic now.
They are. They
So-
were going to do my knee with robotic surgery.
So why can't a doctor in Chicago have control over the robot that's in Botswana doing surgery on somebody, and it's actually the doctor in Chicago doing the surgery with somebody standing by maybe? What do you think?
Listen, we live in changing times. But let me change the topic.
Well, wait, let me make sure I got
Go through your notes.
Yeah, I got through all these.
What's the lawyer's name in New Haven that has the truck?
Irving Pinsky?
Can you Google him and see if there's a picture of his truck on the internet? Just to
Okay,
see if he's
I will.
there?
He's got more than one. He's got a bunch of them because my son lives in New Haven, and whenever he sees it, he takes a picture and sends it to me.
Yeah, Google him and
Okay.
see if he's there. Okay, while I set this up.
Yeah, what are you going to talk about next?
I'm going to talk to you about technology and how good it is and how little we know about it. Now,
Well, can I interject here?
go ahead.
Because I'm glad you're going to talk about this. Because I am developing a passion for video editing. I love it. And I can't thank you enough for introducing me to it. I use Wondershare. And I've been taking the recordings, the video that you've been making pertaining to the Wethersfield incident, the April 20th motor vehicle stop and officer-involved fatal shooting. And, I put together the motor vehicle footage from the dash cam, the comments that people made at the Wethersfield Town Council meeting, the lawyers that came from out of town to represent the deceased family, the estate of the deceased. And what else? Oh, when you were at the Wethersfield Police Department during a protest. And I put together a 2-hour video of this, and it's going to play on cable in Litchfield tonight, in the Litchfield cable area. And I just find so much enjoyment doing that. And I'm trying to find a way to combine my experience being an attorney up to this point
I'm
with
gonna
that.
tell you what it's eventually going to evolve into. I know that you were asked to make a presentation to every member of the New Britain Police Department on First and Second Amendment issues. I believe that once you get into video editing, once you understand that this is not a big building. This is not a brick and mortar TV station that you would see for broadcast news.
Well, let me tell you, it's pretty big, though.
It is, but it could be smaller.
And it's been described as the Taj Mahal
I know.
in
I know.
court testimony.
I know.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I believe that you could create very timely, informative videos, and I'm going to use the one that I know is gun law, Second Amendment, relative to Connecticut, and First Amendment media access videos that if you were to go and be a lecturer, all you have to do is have a video of it and be present while the video is playing. And can you write down heart transplant? Because I want to that's part of this.
I don't want to take a video of that.
No. I don't even want to see a video of it. But what I'm saying is, I think that you're right. Video is something I think that you could morph into, because every time I talk to you now, you've learned one more little tweet on how to do something in Wondershare, which is a very simple program compared to Adobe Premiere and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that just
Okay.
seems overwhelming.
Now, I'll tell you why heart transplant came up. This past week, I had to go to the what's called the Bridge Unit at Hartford Hospital, and it's the heart failure clinic because my heart is failing. And I had to meet with a nurse, and the nurse had papers, and I had to initial, but she had to sit there in the room and read to me verbatim every single word on the page, and I had to initial.
Yeah.
And I was going through document after document. You could die, there could be infections, and while I was sitting there, I said, behind her, I was in the conference room. Behind her was a television set for teleconferencing with the microphone and the camera and the microphones on the desk. I said, this is a nice setup. But why wouldn't someone record the presentation with the pause for initialing?
Yes, absolutely.
And then
to make sure you're watching.
What you're assured of is this: that whatever information you're giving to the patient or the patients plural, it is consistent and it is reviewed for accuracy, and it's the same over and over and over. If something changes, you go in and you cut out the part that changes and put in a new part. But what I'm saying is,
yes,
if you give a seminar that is very informative, the next one may be a little bit different than the last one. The tone of your voice, you may leave something out, you may add something in. There may be some question that comes in that throws you off your game a little bit. But what I'm saying is, everyone should be using video that's in an instructional or seminar situation to inform the people in the room. And you're standing there, pause, anybody have any questions? And then you can get into the free-for-all back and forth. Follow me?
I couldn't agree with you more, because when it's one-on-one, the human talking to the human, later on, you, for example, could always say, well, I didn't understand,
I initially, but I didn't understand it.
She skipped over that part, or she said it wasn't important, and whatever. If it's a video, then the video becomes evidence of what you were presented with. I'll give you an example based on a case I recently had, where the woman rented a car and came back and it had a ding in it, and the dealership or the company that rented her the car said, we want you to pay for it, because that was in the contract that if you come back with a ding in it, you pay for it. And when she testified in court, small claims court, when she testified in small claims court, she said, well, I never walked around the car, and so it became her word against the company's word about whether the ding was there ahead of time. Now, unfortunately for her, she was an educated woman, and she had actually signed the document saying she had walked around the car, so she lost. But there must be a uniform way to have that recorded so nobody can come back and say, I didn't walk around the car. So that should be video recorded. They should have a camera at a certain place on the building, and people should do the walk around where that camera can record them doing it, and then bing, you're set.
And they store that file, or the reference, it'll issue it a file number, and you put that file number on the contract, say recorded on video.
Yeah.
Okay, now got it. So I'm sitting back saying to myself that I am very satisfied and impressed that you have found something to cross the bridge from what you do to what I do that now makes me feel like there's a connection.
Yep.
Because when you always ask me to do something, I've always wanted to be able to say, Rachel, let me see if I can teach you how to do this. It's kind of simple. You did it on your own, you got involved in it, and it started to evolve, and it started to pique your interest.
Well, I'm just so happy that Cablevision now has a program where we can just upload our shows to be shown on Cablevision rather than putting them on a CD and driving them down there. Now that's given me some enthusiasm for doing it. When you said heart failure clinic, we've talked about semantics on this show before. The difference between Department of Defense and Department of War. They're both the same thing. It's just
They changed the name.
what you call it. And I'm thinking, heart failure clinic. That sounds like Department of War. So negative. What is another name that they could call it without the word failure in it?
They call it the bridge unit.
Right, which is better.
But it is the heart failure, I believe it's the heart failure clinic. In
Mm-hmm.
other words, people with failing hearts go there.
Yeah.
But it's called the bridge unit.
Okay.
Now, what you were talking about is during World War II, up until the end of World War II, the Defense Department was really called the War Department. And a bunch of people said psychologically, people are tired of war. They're tired of funding war, but they would be more inclined to donate money or not object to money being paid for defense rather than war. So they renamed it the Defense Department. And then there was the Welfare Department, Health and Welfare Department. And they changed that to the Department of Human Resources.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Well, maybe not that, but I get social something. Yes.
Yeah. They've changed the names to try and pull back flack, pushback
Right.
from the public. They changed the name, does the same thing.
Well, it's no secret that my favorite show on TV is Project Runway. I mean, it's going through a real change right now because Heidi Klum's not on it and Carly Kloss has replaced her. But this new season, they're being more inclusive, more representative, more tolerant, whatever you want to call it. So they have models on there of all different sizes. And they actually did this, I think, for a couple seasons they've been doing this. Models of various sizes from size 0 to 22, basically. And the semantics come into play there because nobody calls anybody fat anymore, especially women. Women are no longer fat, they are curvy. Okay, so when somebody says a woman's curvy, what they're actually saying is she's fat. I mean, let's be serious. And curvy used to have a whole different meaning. I think women back in the day, if somebody called you curvy, you'd be like very complimented, like an hourglass figure, whatever. Now, if someone were to call you curvy, you'd be like, what's up with that? Do I need to maybe, make some changes in my lifestyle or eating habits? So,
okay,
now wait. Oh, go ahead, because I had a couple more things, but go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right. I watch certain TV shows. I like certain TV shows.
American Pickers. Come on. That's it. That's all you watch.
No, I watch a series called FBI. I watch NCIS. You're right. I watch the Discovery Channel, the History Channel. I watch those programs. Okay, hold on. I was watching the FBI episode this past week.
Now, this isn't that like Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.?
No. There's a male and female, and they trust me. No FBI agent gets as much action as they do on TV. It's probably a very boring job until something happens. But what I saw on TV was the actors playing the part of FBI agents in their big black SUV with the black tires with the tinted windows are racing to a scene. And the woman, the special agent in charge, says to the girl in the vehicle, "Turn on your body camera." I had never heard on a TV show a reference to a body camera or telling somebody to turn it on. Now, so I'm sitting there going, okay, so the body camera issue has now evolved into mainstream scripts of television shows because NYPD, there's shows about the prosecutors and there's shows about Special Victims Unit. What they do is they read the fucking newspaper and they change the names and they try to run the same story, but they play it out. It's like real life is writing scripts for television. Mm-hmm. You follow me so far? Okay.
I do.
And
the side point of that is when people come in for jury service in criminal cases, they're going to start expecting that there be got body camera footage because they see it on TV. prosecutors, a question they always ask the jury is, do you watch crime TV shows? Well, you know that it's not the same in real life as on TV. We don't
Right.
have all that forensic evidence and stuff.
And people have said that the jury pools, the public, when they get picked to be in a jury pool now, have watched so much television regarding DNA that they expect the state to come out with DNA, and if they don't have it, they're going, wait a minute, why don't you have DNA?
They call it the CSI effect.
The CSI effect. Now, Harrison Ford played in a movie. No, I'll tell you the name of the movie. Blue Thunder. Blue Thunder was a program. Can you just Google?
Was that Roy Scheider?
Yeah. Can you Google Blue Thunder and tell me what year it came out?
Okay. Let's guess before I Google.
99.
God, I was
89.
I was going to say 86.
89.
Okay.
89.
Go
Blue
ahead.
Thunder.
We'll keep going. What do you want to say about it?
Okay.
It was ahead of its time.
Okay. It wasn't ahead of its time. It was just 1983.
Oh, I was closer.
The 80. No, okay, so in 1983.
Wow,
In
1983.
1983, there's a story. And it's a law enforcement story, and they have a helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in the helicopter, and there's people talking in a building, and they have these sensors on the helicopter that are focused on the glass windows. And they can read by the vibration of the windows exactly what's being said inside the building. Now, that was a disclosure of a futuristic type of technology.
But they probably had it already.
They probably had it.
In 83.
Now, that was with that guy, whatever his name was.
I thought it was Roy Scheider.
Now there was another one that starred Harrison Ford, where they were after a drug lord. And in that program, they were trying to find him. And Harrison Ford and some people walked into a room, and it was a bank of computers, all the little blinking lights and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to reach out into cyberspace and take down a telephone conversation. And they had the person they were looking for talking to someone. Okay? And they said, we found him. Now that means that they're listening to every communication in the world, and the computer can actually go in and an algorithm can figure out this is him right here. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to collect the data, but it's another to be able to pick out what's important from the
Exactly.
data.
So that was Harrison Ford in a TV movie saying we're listening, and we were able to find him. They found him in Mexico, and they sent a bomb into the place and blew it up.
Could that be clear and present danger?
I believe it was clear and present danger.
1994.
That's 94. Now, I want you to Google Korean Air 007.
You know what I was happy to hear a couple weeks when I was at a meeting involving a case is that at least in Connecticut, in one school up in our area, they require the kids to read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Now, that book, I don't know if I had to read it in school. I maybe read it in college, but it is that is a book that's on many schools' reading lists. And that book, I think, was written in the 50s. And this guy foresaw everything that's happening now. It's crazy.
Right.
He wrote it in the 50s.
Google Korean Air 007, please.
Okay. Yes.
That's the flight that was shot down by the Russians with a
Okay.
congressman on
I'm going to
board.
guess the year 82.
No,
No?
okay, go ahead. No, it's in the 90s, I think.
Date. Korean Airlines Flight 007. Date September 1st, 1983.
Okay, 83.
Yep.
Now, what happened was Jeane Kirkpatrick was the secretary of the UN. And we made the allegation that the Russians intentionally shot down a civilian aircraft. And the Russians denied it. And within days of the plane being shot down, Jeane Kirkpatrick brought a tape recording to the UN, put it down on the table, and hit play. And we had communication between the pilot of the fighter and Moscow, saying, I'm following a 747 aircraft, and because they figured that it was going to do some snooping, Moscow told the pilot, shoot it down. So the order came directly from Moscow to shoot down a civilian aircraft. And I said, so let me get this straight. Gene Kirkpatrick, within 48 hours, has the audio of the actual communication ordering the plane to be shot down, and they're sitting there saying it didn't happen.
And Reagan was president at that time.
He was.
What did he do
He
about
was.
it?
I don't know. I can't remember. Now, so you start looking at these things. Now there was a head of the NSC, National Security Council, NSC, National Security Agency, and it was a guy named, I believe, General Hayden, okay, bald-headed guy. And what happened was the computers at NSA went down. It made national news because not only did the online primary computer system go down, but the backup went down also. So General Hayden gave an interview regarding this to either 60 Minutes, ABC, one of the major networks, they sat down with him and talked. And he was asked, well, what does the NSA do? And this was his answer. Well, I can't tell you that. He said, but I will tell you this. The job of the NSA is to gather information through means that the general public would think is impossible. That's what he said. And I have had that in my head ever since he said it, because that's exactly what Blue Thunder was. How the hell can you point something at a pane of glass and be able to tell what people are talking about inside the room?
The thing that makes me wonder about that, though, is people work in these agencies, so some people know about this.
We'll
thing.
talk about it on the outside.
Yeah, I don't know how human beings keep those things to themselves without it somehow being leaked or getting to the outside. That's why I tend to think that there aren't that many things that people don't know about, because eventually it gets out.
But you see, it does get out. For example, and I'm talking about technology now. There's a thing called carnivore, where it's against the law for the U.S. government to eavesdrop or wiretap on someone in the United States without a warrant. But ever since they came up with what was known at the time Telstar, where people started to talk by satellite across the ocean, there was not a wire, so it's not a wiretap. What they did was they put listening devices in England and Canada and every place looking up at the satellite, and they're listening to all of the communications that are taking place. That became very evident when England and France were talking about the price of beef in the European Union, and somehow the English knew exactly what the French were saying, or we knew what they were saying, and everybody said, well, wait a minute, how did you find that out? And it kind of leaked out that it was happening. Okay, that's technology. Now, there was a motor vehicle chase from Middletown to Rocky Hill, and what happened was a car in Glastonbury, Connecticut got carjacked from a newspaper delivery man. The car then was found in Hartford, tracked to Middletown. Middletown went there, and a chase went up the highway, and they crashed and bailed out of the car in Rocky Hill. And one of the officers said to me on the scene, I said, how the hell did you figure this out? And they said, because he was driving a brand new Hyundai. Hyundai has a device in the car that you can access and know exactly where the car is at all times. And the people who carjacked the car didn't realize that their car, so they called up Hyundai and they said, can you tell us where this car is? And they said, it's in Hartford. Went to Middletown, it's right there.
We got a caller, Ed. Joe from Chicago.
Joe from Chicago. First of all, thank you very much for your concern about my health.
Right on.
I got my man purse.
That device?
I got my man purse with my constant drugs.
Okay, so all right. So you still hooked up to that little device?
I am.
Tag. All right, you look good. I was worried about you there for a while.
Thank
what you
you.
guys were just talking about, I was waiting for one of you guys to mention Snowden. Remember the NSA that we found out all the stuff they were doing? They were recording every conversation in every country.
Right.
Remember Snowden proved that. I was waiting for one of you guys to comment on that.
Well, you know,
On that
there's
right there.
Joe, there's so many that it is difficult to list them all. But stay on the phone. I'm going to give you
Well,
time. But there's one that I'm going to say that's in the news recently.
I was
Go ahead.
trying to think of that. I was trying
Snowden?
to think of the person involved in that, but the name, I wasn't finding the name. So thanks a lot. Yep.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, now, Joe, while you're on the phone, think of this one. I had a neighbor come up to me. Oh, it had to be years ago. Now, you know,
Right.
why do you think the cell phone companies used to give away a phone for a penny?
Or free. Or
For
just
free.
the same
Now
thing.
they're free.
But,
They're-
yeah, on
they're
every
free.
corner, they give them away for free.
And
Here
trust
in the
me, the government wants everybody talking on cell phones because now they can ping the phone and know where you are at all times.
city. Absolutely.
And here's what a neighbor said to me, and it had to be 15 years ago. He had a friend who worked for NSA who told him, he says, you know, when your phone is like my phone right now is on, but I'm not talking on it. When your phone is on the dashboard of your car, the government has the technology to get into your
yeah.
phone, turn on your speaker, and they can hear every communication in the car.
That's absolutely true. You also made another good point about how they can point the mic at the windows back
Yep.
in the 80s. Well, now they can point the mic at a microwave microphone at a potato chip bag, glass of water, something in your house, and that'll vibrate as well, run through a computer program, and it'll give you the whole conversation.
Exactly, because the glass acts like a speaker, and it vibrates at the same frequency as the human
Exactly.
voice.
And using that technology, they realized that, hell, everything vibrates. A lot of stuff in that room will vibrate. So if you're hip on the glass, you know, so maybe you got something to stop the glass from vibrating, maybe you got armored glass or something. In the room, you still have to worry about drinking a glass of water, a potato chip bag. They all vibrate. And they all know how to run it through a computer since they did it with the glass and get the conversation that the vibrations respond to.
How many times have we watched a fictitious scripted program on TV where someone says to someone, do we have an eye in the sky?
Exactly.
Over Serbia or over Moscow or over New York City. At the time of a bank robbery, did we have an eye in the sky? And they can literally read a postage stamp, the denomination of a postage stamp, on the sidewalk from like 160 miles away on a clear day.
In the early 80s, they could read a headline of a newspaper.
Right.
So it's 2020 almost. So yeah, they've got
Well,
better at it.
Joe?
So yeah, they're on top of that. And I remember, I don't know what happened from this, but do you remember that some of those countries, when Snowden exposed them, they were mad. They didn't want them keeping files on their citizens and the phone calls and just banking them. And some of those are our allies. Do you know what happened with that? I guess they just didn't record them, but it was an outcry for a while there.
There was, yeah, and then we watched a movie on Netflix or Hulu about the bank HSBC and everything that they had been involved in. Do you remember the Panama Papers? That was the name of it. All these people all over the world who were very wealthy and politicians hiding their money, and the documents from the law firm were leaked, and all this information came out. Whatever happened to that too? It's like these stories come out and you don't know whatever happens, but
I know, right? They chase Edward Snowden and guys like, what's the other guy, Assange? They chase them around forever. But what happens to them? Nobody ever goes to jail. The laws don't change. That never happens.
I mean, banks like HSBC, according at least to the Panama Papers, were integral in the
hiding of money,
in terrorism,
That's right.
and
That's right.
and the drug trade, all these kind of things. And now when I drive around, I see the big HSBC buildings, and I'm saying, well, I guess they're okay. Nothing happened to
too
them.
big to fail.
Right. Right. They'll survive, right? They'll survive. They're doing okay.
Yeah.
They'll probably find a janitor or a security guard somewhere to go to jail for all the rich people who are doing all the crimes.
Yeah, exactly.
But then I'm going to get into where I started this technology thing. But I'm going to just say this to you.
Well, I have a couple questions for Joe too.
Okay,
so
well, let
set
me just
aside
say
some
this.
time.
Joe, everybody has had presented to them in print, on the radio, on television, on the internet, the discoveries made by the Hubble telescope.
Right on. Yeah.
Looking out into the most distant parts of the universe.
Good point, man. Good
What the
point.
fuck
Good
happens?
point.
What the fuck happens when they turn it around and they look at the Earth?
Right. If you can look, a few billion years into the past by looking at stars that are that far away, then surely nothing is secret on this Earth. Nothing is secret on this planet.
When I was in high school,
Yeah.
I used to read Popular Science and Popular Mechanics magazines. I was fascinated
Me
by it.
too. Me too. I do
And there was a story.
You two are separated by birth.
There was a story in Popular Mechanics or Popular Science about Howard Hughes building a ship called the Glomar Explorer. And the Glomar Explorer was presented to the American public and the world as a device that was going to be used to mine precious minerals from the ocean floor. That was the purpose that we were building. The government was contracting to have the Glomar Explorer built.
Right.
Then it was released that the Glomar Explorer sole purpose was to go out to the Pacific Ocean northwest of Hawaii, to the deepest oceans, the deepest of the ocean, because a Russian submarine had gone down. And the Glomar Explorer went down, picked up and lifted up the Russian submarine. It was taken into the belly of the Glomar Explorer. It broke apart coming up, but they got portions of it. They got the code books. They gave the Russian sailors that were the remains a burial, but it was top secret. They didn't want the Russians to know that we had recovered their submarine. Mm-hmm. But that was the real reason for the Glomar Explorer, and there's been a documentary done on it. Mm-hmm. But here's...
You know how that information got out, how the Russians figured that out, what we were doing?
No, how?
I heard that one of those spies, I forget what was Rosenberg or the guy from the movie Breach, one of them had given the Russians information that we were ahead of them with their subs, and we had the ability to not only go get their sub that went down, but access the cables down there and use them somehow as a net to keep track of any Russian subs that came back.
Right. Now, this is the story that I wanted to start and do about technology that led to this last 45 minutes to an hour discussion on technology.
Right on.
I have read on the internet a recent story about how the U.S. government or the British government identified and blew up Jihadi John. That's the guy in the black that cut the heads off people when that reporter Foley got beheaded. Yeah. He was the guy, he was the talking. Okay. Here's what happened.
Yeah.
According to and I don't have the article. I looked at it, and all I could find. They started to search his speech patterns. How does he talk? British accent. So they started to listen to everybody's conversations to compare how he was talking in the videos to the recordings that they had on file.
Right.
Now, they got information that he may have been in a certain location, but it was dark, and they couldn't do facial recognition. So they were able to identify him by his beard. You know, the shape of his beard at night with like
beards over there.
and
so they using the facial recognition then to determine the size and shape of his beard.
they were able to tell how tall he was. They were able to tell by the shape of his beard. they were able to tell by the gait how he walked. He had a certain way of walking. And they put all of that together and said, that's him. Even though they couldn't see his face or whatever, Jihadi John was blown up. They said 15 seconds after they clearly identified him using that type of technology.
Oh my goodness. So
Boom!
Baird
He
in
was
the
gone.
sky Already probably had a drone
So-
already in the sky.
So if you get a chance, you can Google Jihadi John's death.
I will. I'm that type of guy.
So they should be able to come up with software then where you just basically show a person. Well, they'd have to have software where you put all these factors together of a person, and then if you have a suspect, then you can basically know whether that suspect fits the profile. It's like profiling taken to another technological level.
I heard that some people are doing that. They're just using their facial recognition systems, just to store the public's faces. They got them in different places, in different cities, and they just 24 hours a day just snap people pictures. So they'll have a database to compare it to if they ever want to go after this guy, that guy. So by now, they've been doing this for years. They probably got features and stuff in some type of database somewhere.
I can't imagine that there's not, that we're all not on file somewhere.
George Orwell was a man before his time. I don't believe there's anything that we can do as human beings right now on this planet that if the government doesn't want to know what we've done or what we're doing or what we're going to do, that they can't figure it out.
No, I totally agree. If they can find the guy that was Bin Laden's courier, staying off the phone and all that type of stuff, then, anybody in America or Chicago or New York, we don't stand a chance.
Well, didn't they
way too much technology and cameras.
Didn't they just find the serial killer in the Northwest because they had DNA, but what they did was they went to the publicly available DNA like my DNA's up on the public. Mm-hmm. So what they can say is, well, it's not Ed Peruta, but we know that it's related to Ed Peruta. So it could be a fifth cousin. And then they start looking and they have programs that'll start narrowing down the DNA to a group of people, and you go, well, who lives in Oregon?
Wow, right. You're right. You know, they can tell by the amount of whatever in the water, the amount of metals in the air, pollution. They can tell where animals come from. They can do it with humans.
They can look at a Neanderthal's teeth and tell what he ate.
So it's like looking at a trail of breadcrumbs, really. You know, you're at the end of the trail and you just follow the DNA and get to the actual person.
And I have to tell you something, Joe. Can you Google serial killer Knapp, K-N-A-P-P?
Okay.
Hold on.
Serial
N-A-P?
killer Knapp, K-N-A-P-P.
Okay, Knapp, okay.
I'll do it, Joe. Don't worry about it.
I'll do it.
What's it say?
I mean, I can't Google it now because I don't have my computer on, but
Al-
I'll be checking on it.
Listen to what Rachel's going to tell you.
I don't know. This was way back in time.
How far back?
1840 or something.
Oh, no, okay.
No, that's not where you're talking
Here's
about.
what it is.
Yeah.
My cousin's daughter has been doing a lot of this family DNA with Ancestry.com. And she got an email from somebody, either in the news media or something, asking her if any of her research was used to catch the murderer in California or Oregon or something, because the murderer's last name is Knapp, K-N-A-P-P, and my mother's maiden name is Knapp, K-N-A-P-P, and my cousin's daughter's name is Judy Temple Knapp, K-N-A-P-P.
So they assume that all Knapps are related? Why would they jump to the conclusion that she has something to do with it?
You know something? Joe, I don't know. All I know is somebody asked her if any of her research was used to try and nail this guy. Mm-hmm. But that's how they're doing it now. It's technology. But when I heard that they can tell by the way you walk, or they can tell by the shape of your beard, or how many hairs are in your head, or not in my case, not in the head. You know, that this technology is being used by government, and I know right now that they find out information about a killer, but they don't have enough to get a warrant, or they're afraid to present the mechanisms that they arrived at their evidence.
They don't want everybody to know about the technology. I was going to ask you guys, what's your opinion on this? Because it looks like everything that the government gets their views. I hate to be that guy that's, I don't know, pessimistic or whatever, but it does seem like whatever you give them, they find a way to abuse. So you mentioned a way that, yeah, if you catch a serial killers or bad guys with this stuff, people wouldn't have such a problem. But if you just listen in on reporters overseas or something, because of the story they wrote, what's you guys' opinion on them having this? We know they have it because they came out, and I don't know, nothing's been done about it. Nobody shut them down.
They're not going to get shut down, Joe.
You know, I think the technology is a really good thing. I mean, there's no doubt there's no doubt about it. But on the other hand, you know, so I talk to, you know, prisoners will call me because I do criminal defense, and it'll be on a regular line, not the recorded line that inmates have to use when they call.
Right.
But you have to wonder. Is anybody listening when you go visit an inmate in jail and you're looking? You have to wonder, am I being recorded? You know, you're not supposed to be, but to me,
exactly. But you know, who's gonna trust that guy to cut the button off so he doesn't hear this? I mean, if it's to his advantage to hear it, he's probably gonna leave the button on. Did you see? I saw a video. This might have been a couple of years ago. A guy got a call from somebody downtown. I don't know what type of a bank was calling him about a credit card or something, and he keeps abreast of all the things the government are doing. He told the lady, by the way, you want to avoid downtown. They're doing some type of government FEMA test down there. Within an hour, the FBI was at his door. He called the lady back and asked, did you call FBI on me or something? You know, because I made that comment that they were doing some type of rehearsal downtown. She said, no, I didn't talk to anyone. No one talked to me. So it looks like they're listening to his conversation. They heard the key word. So they're forward to a human being who heard him say that somehow he knew that they were doing a rehearsal downtown. And then the FBI came to his door and asked how he knew about it. He like, how the hell you know I know about it? I just talked to a lady that an hour ago on the phone, and you at my door? So they're listening in a lot. They have to be listening on this. If we say the wrong shit, they'd be at our
There was
you know, and then as an attorney, a client will come to me, or a potential client, they'll come to me and they'll tell me that story. They'll say, oh, they're listening in on my phone, or they're following me, or this or that. And you're looking at them, and you're not sure whether to believe them or not, because you hear a lot of things like that. And then even if you do believe them and you find it credible, you're thinking, well, how am I ever going to prove this? What would I do about it?
And then when you try to check it out, everybody says that your client wears an aluminum hat inside the house, and he's got aluminum foil over his phones, you know, and stuff like that. But
well,
can I change the subject for a second? I wanted to ask you guys a couple questions about. I'm not good with the technology. Last time I talked to you guys, it seemed like forever, but you guys and Casey, what's his name? JC was playful with that.
Yeah.
Generate the videos. So I was filming a cop recently, and it died after like, I don't know, 5-6 minutes or something. So I put that one on YouTube, and I end up erasing the other ones. Is there some type of way I could know how much time I have to video something? Is there a feature on the phone or something that, you know, I can stop? How do other people save their videos? What the hell am I doing wrong?
So what do you use, a phone or a camera?
My phone, which I need a camera. I call myself, I say, okay, I spent $300-400 on a camera. Everybody like, nah, that, you know, you're going to be like over $1,000 to get a decent camera.
So is your phone fully charged when you're doing the video?
Yeah, it wasn't from the battery. It was the lack of space.
Lack of space. Do you have an SD card in your phone, or are you saving?
I do not have a card. I don't even know if this thing takes a card, really.
Yeah, that's what.
Joe. Joe.
Yeah.
First of all, what's the model of your phone? The brand?
Samsung 8.
Okay, let me explain to you.
Oh, that should work.
I have a Samsung S8 Plus
Okay.
is one of my phones. And
Right.
there's a hard drive inside the phone.
Right.
And then there's a slot where you can put a mini tiny SD card in the
On
phone.
the outside of the phone, or do I have to open the phone?
Excuse me?
To put the SD card in, you have to open the phone?
Nope, there's a little thing at the top with a hole in it. Trust me. Who's your, do you have like Verizon or Sprint?
AT&T.
Okay, go to an AT&T store
Yeah.
and ask them if they can put in an SD card. And here's what happens. When you go into the phone's features, you can tell the phone, I want you to record all of the video to the SD card, not to the phone.
Yep.
God. You know what? You're absolutely right, because it asked me, do you want to store something on an SD card?
Yes.
You want to say yes.
All right.
Now, Joe, hold on.
I have one in there already and don't even know it.
I believe that your phone may take what is called a 128 gigabyte SD card. And they're not that expensive now. And if you take it to AT&T, I'm sure that a tech will put it in for you and program your phone to record to it. All right?
My man. All right.
Now-
I'll get out of the shot.
Now, what happens is you have a computer, correct?
I do, yeah.
You get the cord that you charge your phone with?
Yeah.
Well, instead of plugging it into the charger, you plug it into the USB port on your laptop.
Okay.
And through your laptop, you can look inside your phone at the SD card, all of the files.
Right.
Now what you do is
And I could probably store it on my computer.
Yeah.
You copy all of your, it's usually under DCIM, a folder called DCIM. You copy all your video files and you say, put them in the folder on my computer.
Right. I'm sorry. I'm yelling out the window. I saw somebody walking past. Yeah,
I thought you were just excited about what Ed was saying.
Okay. I appreciate that. If you guys, the video I put up there, it was just to save space. I don't know how to edit. I might have to call you guys on how to handle it.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm thinking of doing.
Where's it up at?
Yeah. Excuse me?
Where is it up at? Where is it on you?
YouTube. Pricks. No. Yeah. Pricks, cops. Making shit difficult. But you can put in pricks.
How do you spell it? Oh,
Pricks.
B
No.
or P?
Pricks. You know, like penis.
I know. I got it, Ed. I got it.
Okay, pricks with an S and cops with an S.
Oh boy, I never want to see you two in the same room.
I know, right?
We'll make a salt and pepper team.
Oh God.
Yeah, look for a white police van in the thumbnail. It's a Chicago police van.
Okay.
I was telling y'all about this before, how they keep running lights on the corner. And this time, I've been doing good talking to them. I videotaped some of them, and they was like, oh, no, we just run them because we heard a gunshot. We're not going to make this a habit. 2 days later, they back out there blocking the sidewalk with the lights spinning again. So this time I was angry. And I remember telling y'all I had some issues with the cops. I would like, get you guys' opinion on this. I had to calm down, literally like, hold on, let me calm down. And then every time they got, those cameras not watching you or something, I'll get angry and be like, man, they're watching me every day. And so you get an idea how I'm struggling with this, trying to be kind to the cops stuff. Or not, I don't know.
Do you deal, I mean, the Chicago Police Department obviously is very large. Do you deal with pretty much the same police officers who are in your district? I mean, do you recognize them time after time?
We do.
Precinct.
I got a police station like 3 blocks down from my house, so I usually see, depending on, I know the night shift, the day shift, I pretty much know who's going to be in that van when I turn the corner about what time of day it is. I got their names, I've been talking to their bosses, like you guys said, I shouldn't have erased all them damn tapes, but I got a chronological history of me trying to get these guys to stop driving up and down the sidewalk and doing dumb stuff.
So you've done videos, but you've erased them to make more room for the new videos.
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly.
Now you know you don't have to do it.
Right. No, don't
Right.
ever
Now-
erase another video.
Joe, listen to me.
All I hear is your voice saying that from the last time. That's why it's on YouTube now. I hear that all the time. I'll do my best.
But let me say, during the week, I'm going to make an attempt to set up an area on my Dropbox where you can upload some of your videos to us, and then we can play them on the show.
You might have to talk me through it. I think I sent you an email a couple weeks ago.
Send me another one. I'm bad.
Say again?
Send me another one. I'm bad.
Okay, I'll do that.
Oh, and here I was thinking Joe had never done that.
Email again, would you give it to me so I don't have to
Stu-
look to see wherever I put it?
Studio
Yeah.
at amnewsnetwork.com.
AM?
amnewsnetwork.com.
All right, guys. I got to get out of here. I got people calling me. I've been putting them on hold, man. It was nice talking to you. And be safe. Rach, you're beautiful, man. And
Thank
love
you,
talking
Joe.
to you guys.
Okay, have a
All
good
right.
week. Bye-bye.
Good.
Be groovy, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Interesting phone call.
Mm-hmm.
We just helped him figure out how to preserve his videotapes.
Well, I think before Joe ever called the show, I had said that it was my belief that in a large city like Chicago, an urban area, for, JC, you always say JC's got a lot of balls, he goes out in there, and there's no doubt about that. But I had said for a black man in an urban area to go out and record the police, that takes a lot of guts.
I agree.
Yeah, and then Joe, I think, called up the next week or the week after that. I can't remember. I think the dog
Can you
needs to
take
go
her out?
out. Thank you.
Yeah, she's
She
coming
came
and
over
saying,
with
"I
a
gotta-
panic look
I
on
gotta-"
her
yeah.
face. Definitely.
Um,
Yeah, let me combine two issues that we've talked about on the show. You talked about heart transplants,
yep.
and we've been talking about technology. Recently in the news, I think my phone was dead, so I put on the radio in my car and NPR, because I don't like listening to music that much in the car.
I don't like
so-
NPR.
I know, but it listed a whole bunch of stories they were going to be doing, and one of them was how the policy on allotting livers to people who need transplants has changed in the past week.
It has.
And I thought to
All
myself,
transplants.
oh, well, yeah, okay. Let me
Even
tell
the
what
hearts.
let me tell what I heard, and then you can tell me if it's consistent. So I thought, okay, I'm going to stay on board with this. Unfortunately, it was like the last of 5 stories they were doing, and I swear, the first 4 stories were about 4 different things, but somehow whatever bad had happened was Donald Trump's fault. I mean, it's crazy. NPR, they are like obsessed with Donald Trump. You can't listen to anything. But I stuck with it because I really wanted to hear their liver story. And they didn't blame Donald Trump for anything involving So what they said was, the way they do it now is people in certain areas of the country, or the way they used to do it, certain people in areas of the country get livers faster because, like, for instance, in the South, more livers are available because more people die
Mortalities.
in incidents where they can actually take the liver out and transplant it. And so they've widened the base to 500 miles surrounding any transplant center, is it? So that more people within that area have access to livers. It's not so uneven, but I'm thinking, but then they're talking about, well, people are going to have to, travel further to get the liver, to go get the recipient, the donor could be very far apart, and all this kind of stuff, all this intrigue. And then I'm thinking, well, what if you live on the coast, like a 500-mile radius for North Carolina?
Half of it's the
Half
Atlantic
of it's
Ocean.
in the water, so that's not fair. I don't know how they account for that. So, Ed, you probably have more up-to-date information on this. Do we have a caller?
We do. Are you still on with Joe?
No.
So, got a caller from South Dakota with First Amendment related.
Good. Okay.
Go ahead. Summary judgment.
Welcome to Summary Judgment.
Hi, this is Big Shitty.
Big Shitty?
Yeah, that's my journalist name. I go by Big Shitty.
Okay.
I'm in South Dakota.
Okay.
Well, that's all right. I own a company called Anus, so maybe you can work out of Anus as Big Shitty.
Yeah, that'd be a nice little combo there. You know, I was watching YouTube, and I seen that News Now Houston had you guys on live, and that's how I found you guys. I've never heard of you guys before, but I've been having this problem lately that you see on YouTube all the time where people film in public, and I got arrested.
Yes.
They violated my rights. Yeah, and I don't understand why they keep doing this and they're getting away with it, because I don't know what I can do about it.
South Dakota.
Now, you're in South Dakota?
Yeah.
Okay. So set up the scenario. What were you doing before you were videotaping?
Before I was videotaping, when this all started, I was writing somebody in jail. I was writing a friend, and then the jail started messing with my mail. So then that's when I decided I need to start documenting it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the post office and I documented my complaint. And at first there was no problems, but then they realized this is kind of going into a big deal probably. So then the next time I came in to record and get some more information, then they called 911 on me, and the police said that I couldn't film inside of a public building in a post office and all that, and he threatened me with arrest. So then when I left under threat of arrest, but then I went to the supervisor at the police station to complain to them, and they arrested me for it. Just because I wouldn't leave because I was filming, and I was documenting my complaint.
All right.
So what kind of law enforcement agency are we talking about? I mean, state, municipal, federal?
Police department. I had a meeting after the police department with the chief of police. I met him at the city hall, and he was in the meeting. So I went back to go meet him, and 30 minutes before my meeting, I show up, and they arrested me. They said I had no business there, and they didn't want me filming there. It was the deal.
So what was?
Documenting it.
All right.
What was the
Well,
charge? Disorder?
Back up. a
Okay,
minute.
go ahead, Ed.
So you went into a post office in South Dakota,
Yeah.
and you were recording when you went in.
Yeah.
And who did you want to speak to? Like the postmaster?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the supervisor. I don't think the postmaster was there that day, but I was trying to figure out what law said that you cannot open mail and read it and see it and return the sender without using postage on it, because that's what the jail was doing. They're getting free mail. They're reading everybody's mail, and they're like, well, I don't like this. And
Okay.
then they're just returning the sender.
Okay. Were you okay? Who was in jail?
Just a friend of mine. It was actually just some girls I didn't even know. I was just writing random girls. It sounds stupid, but, you know, that's what I was doing. I was putting hours into this, and then they started blocking my mail just because they wanted to cock block me.
Okay. So you tried to send a letter into a correctional facility to someone who was being held.
Yep.
But I think the issue is, I don't think that's the issue he wants addressed. I think the issue he wants addressed is when he went to the post office to try to figure out what was going on,
I got it.
was he allowed to record the discussion, confrontation, meeting, whatever you want to call it,
I got it.
interaction?
I got it.
Right.
Now,
That's what
I
we
got
need
it.
to focus on.
I got it.
Okay?
What I would do is I would have called the U.S. Postal Service in Washington, D.C., and I would have found someone who can answer this question. Are there any federal regulations that prohibit the videotaping inside the public area of a post office?
And is it posted?
Yeah, but they already have a poster inside the post office that allows everybody to film inside the post office in the public lobby. It's called Poster 7.
Okay, I didn't realize. So what you're saying
I
is
never heard of that.
there's
Thanks.
an actual poster 7.
Yep. There's a sign with a gun that has a line through it. You know, it says no guns, you know, allowed
Right.
inside here.
Yeah.
And on that same poster in the fine print that nobody ever reads, because nobody ever reads fine print, it says in there that the press has the right to film inside the public lobby.
Okay, gotcha.
All the
Now,
public areas.
I am looking at
the-
poster 7 right now.
the question is, did the local sheriff or police department consider you to be the media or not the media?
No, they just considered me they didn't even care who I was. They
Okay,
didn't care
gotcha.
about media. They didn't
Gotcha.
care about
Now,
press.
where does the local police department get the authority
Yeah.
to make an arrest in a from a federal building? Because in essence, the post office has their own police department. It's called the U.S. Postal Service, the postal police or whatever it is, postal inspectors. Okay. So, do you still have charges against you?
Yeah, actually, I left under threat of arrest at the post office, but then I went to Arizona to meet another Arizona auditor, and we did an audit because I was trying to expand my education and make some more friends, and we got arrested in a post office there. So I got one arrest in the post office that you're talking about is out of jurisdiction.
But
Yeah, because if you look at poster 7, it says that if you violate any of the rules on poster 7, you're subject to penalties under the United States Code, which is federal law.
and I don't believe that a local police department has the authority to make an arrest for a federal code violation.
Yeah.
It would have to be referred to the postal inspector.
Well, but it says nothing contained in these rules and regulations shall be construed to abrogate any other federal laws or regulations or any state or local laws and regulations applicable to any area in which the property is situated. Now, it doesn't actually talk about inside the property. It talks about the area where the property is situated.
Let me see if I can on the layman's side of this.
Mm-hmm.
The post office, let's assume that the post office is a public building and it's located in a state, in a county, in a town. The town can have a law that says you can't. The county can have a law that says you can't. The state can have a law that says you can't. But the federal government can have a more liberal law than the local law and give you permission on their property.
Well, yeah, that's kind of
The First Amendment gives us that right.
yeah. Well, sometimes, unfortunately, police departments violate the First Amendment, and then it's incumbent upon you to defend yourself and show that the First Amendment was violated. And it's so, but I'm wondering, when you went to the police department, did they arrest you or threaten to arrest you based on what happened at the police department, or were they going back to what happened at the post office?
No, they said that I had no business there. I had a meeting with the chief to discuss with him why I was trespassed at the post office and threatened with arrest. And when I showed up for that meeting, I had official business there with the chief, and they arrested me. They said that I had no official business there.
So they arrested you for coming to the police station.
Did you have an appointment scheduled with the chief?
Well, it doesn't really matter.
Yep, I absolutely had a scheduled appointment with him. I met him at the city hall because I went to the city hall also to complain, and they didn't want to touch it. So they were like, "Oh, the chief is coming in," because they had a meeting about me that morning. There was a huge bunch of people there. They didn't know what to do about me filming everywhere. It was some major emergency. I'm gonna catch everybody or something.
Well,
When I met him at the city hall, that's when we made the appointment.
do you have an attorney?
No, I can't find an attorney. I've been all over town, and nobody wants to touch this. I promise you, I've talked to over 100 attorneys.
You know, we have a case, J.C. Playford, out in California, where we're alleging that he was arrested in retaliation for his exercise of his First Amendment rights. And what you're talking about sounds like, you know, retaliatory animus against you because you exercise your First Amendment rights.
Well, here.
And there's actually a case at the Supreme Court which addresses that issue right now. But you know what? His issue sounds like the Lozman case. Fane Lozman out of Florida. If you want to look up this guy, his first name is Fane, and then his last name is Lozman. Just look him up. Google that name, Supreme Court. You'll find all the stuff about this guy. And that's what happened to him. And he actually represented himself through a lot of the proceedings until it kind of became apparent he might win. And then the attorneys jumped on board. So look him up, because what happened to him, he was thrown out of a city council meeting and arrested. Sounds a lot like you.
Let me tell you what I predict.
Uh-huh.
You currently still have a case pending in a court in South Dakota.
Yeah, I have trespassing in South Dakota for the arrest at the police department, and when I was arrested in Arizona at the post office, so I have trespassing, harassment, and disorderly in Arizona.
Well, you must be doing a lot of traveling.
Well, at least back and forth.
This is stressful.
Okay, now, they're going to keep those charges pending against you until they have to do something, because they can't let it go on forever.
Mhm.
And when it comes down to it, they may get cold feet and just say, well, we put him through enough shit, they'll dismiss or nullify the charge. But if you go to trial, you know, I wouldn't be afraid to represent myself. I said, wait a minute. I got poster number 7 here that says I have the right to record in the public lobby of the post office. And then you say, and I had an appointment with the chief, i.e. I was invited to come in for an appointment, and so I did have business at the police department. And the chief's going to have to testify, and the postmaster's going to have to testify, and I just...
I'm wondering, and I know how Master Control hates last-minute requests, and I completely understand. But I've emailed you a copy of poster number 7. I'm wondering if you could put it up, because I have learned something valuable today from, is it Mr. Big Shitty or just Big Shitty?
Big Shitty?
Okay, okay.
Send me an email. Big Shitty, send me an email.
What is your email address? I was asking online what your mailing address is, some kind of way to contact you guys. I've never heard of you before.
Studio.
This is the first time calling, first time listening.
Thank you.
Studio at
Studio?
studio, like television studio.
Studio, okay.
Studio at amnewsnetwork.com for American News Network.
All right. Got that.
Studio at amnewsnetwork.com.
What did you say?
The retaliation has actually continued, where I was told from private property, and an old record told me, and also the police that lives right across the street from me. I heard him cock his rifle through his window. I couldn't see him because he was inside the house, but I know what a gun sounds like. He was trying to intimidate me. Boy, and there was one other thing.
Now, do you know, you said that you watch News Now Houston. Do you know about News Now San Diego?
No.
Okay.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, a lot of videos up there about J.C. Playford, who operates out in San Diego, and who goes through a lot of the stuff you go through. He was arrested 4 times.
Hold on a minute. Mr. Shitty,
Yep.
this is coming directly from the president of ANUS.
All right.
Do you see when in the previous screen at the top it says Summary, Judgment, Talk, Show? See this right here? There's going to be a delay.
Somebody does make talk show?
Right. We transmit our program onto YouTube at Summary, Judgment, Talk, Show. We transmit to News Now San Diego, all one word. And we transmit to News Now Houston, all one word, on YouTube.
All right.
So
Get the name out.
go to those 3 YouTube accounts and hit subscribe. And if you subscribe, when we go live, you'll get a notice that we're going live.
All right.
And then we'll go to your show, what's it called? Pricks Dicks or something like that?
No, that's Joe.
Oh, that's
Our
Joe?
previous caller.
No, that's this guy.
No, it's not.
Oh.
No, big city.
What do you have a YouTube account?
Yeah.
What is
I
it?
set one up because of all this happening. I just set one up about a month ago, so I don't really have that many followers. And I only got a couple thousand views on my first video, and I got assaulted. And I tried to report it to the police department because I was assaulted when I went back to go get my car. After
Well-
I got towed.
Well, I'll put
And
it.
the police department refuses to press charges on them, and I got it all on video.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you want us to show one of your videos on our show to get the word out, then we will do that. Okay? So just email the link to us, and with your permission, just in your email, say.
We have permission to use your videos.
Yep, we will do that to get more of the information out. Okay? Until you pick up more subscribers. Believe me, you know it takes a while to pick up subscribers. You just have to keep working on it.
And I would ask everyone that's watching News Now San Diego, News Now Houston, to subscribe to Summary Judgment Talk Show, News Now Houston if you're there, and News Now San Diego. Subscribe to all 3 of them.
Okay, so we got to go. We're going to conclude our show.
We're running out of time.
Thank you so much for calling.
All right, thank you.
I want to get
See
in.
you next week.
I want to get in. Gary Nance out in California. He's been following the story closely about the California AG order to release police misconduct files. That's a
Yeah,
big story out
that's
in
a big
California
story out
right
there.
now. So thank you for sending that, Gary. And I'm going to put that on the list to talk about next week. But if you remind me, that would be great. Everybody
Adios.
have a great week.
See
Take
you. Have
care.
a safe week.
Bye bye.
And I think we're done for the week.
Poster number 7.
Poster number 7.
I'm going to read. Poster number 7 gives permission to the media. How do they differentiate the media from anybody
How do
else?
they define who the media is?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Boy, his phone went off just at the right moment, huh? Right when the show's ended. Somebody must know he does
Did
the
we
show.
have the right date up there?
Yeah, he changed it. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna fly a drone. We got to go someplace and fly a drone.
Oh, I have to go?
Yeah,
You don't have to go.
Are you going, Nick?
I'm going.
Okay. How about my backyard now?